All right. What's up, YouTube? So we'll allow people to get in if they want to come in, and so we can ask questions and do all that fun jazz. Hopefully everybody got the notification. Try to do it as early as possible. Had a few free moments, so I figured we'd go through a garden planner. So I'll wait for people to start showing up, and then we'll get to it. All right, so tonight's episode is Intro to Gardening. I have a website up that we're going to use tonight. It's not the one I usually use, but this is a free one. You don't have to create a login, so that's what we'll be doing. But let's start with the intro to garden planning. All right, so you want to start the design process and look around for ideas, whether it be raised bed, which is going to be easier. It's more costly, but you guarantee the soil nutrients and stuff. There's great landscaping ideas all around. Look at homes in your community. Take note of the landscapes that catch your eye. Look on the internet, see what you can find. There's all kinds of stuff out there. So go out and take a look around and make a note of them, and then do some research on it. You can also check, see if there's a garden club in your area that'll do a tour of local gardens. That may or may not be a thing in your area, but you can look around and see. That way you can get like a close-up view of plants and design ideas that are especially appropriate for your area. So in your area may be different than mine. Just like we've discussed in the morning muster, poison stinger can grow stuff from, I believe, February, and I still have 2 more weeks to go. So into May almost. There are a lot of public parks and botanical gardens that can also give you planting ideas. So a lot of those are flowers and stuff, but you need beneficial plants and to draw in pollinators, insectaries, and all kinds of stuff. So those are good ideas to look into too. You can check out a wide variety of gardening books. Most are super packed with pictures and tips of other people's success stories, so you can do that as well. When you look at a landscape, though, try to visualize it as a series of garden or rooms, like a room in a house. Each part of the landscape has walls, a floor, and a ceiling. The walls could be a hedge or a row of trees, a fence, or a trellis. The floor might be turf, mulch, ground cover, crushed stone, or wooden decking. And the sky can be an arbor that could serve as a ceiling. So once everybody gets in here and can ask questions, we will go further in depth with that. But if not, if you're catching this after the fact, go ahead and leave a comment, and I'll try to answer it to the best of my ability. And hopefully you can catch a live chat and get in on question asking. Breaking the landscape down into rooms makes it a lot easier to identify. So it's basically what I'm trying to explain to you is square foot gardening. But it's easier to picture it as a room. Is it like a room? Then you know what you're looking at then. So you can assimilate something there. If you want to separate a vegetable garden from the rest of your yard, you'll need to sort some sort of wall, whether it be the paved stones or wood or other structures. You can use logs, pallets, whatever you got. And if you don't see if you don't want to see the garden, you can plant a hedge of some sort. that will essentially be your fence around your garden or your wall. You can install a wooden fence to hide your garden, chain link, animal pen fencing. If you're enclosing the garden protected from animals, you might try a woven wire fence planted with attractive vines, which is something I do. I use fencing, and then I put up not wisteria, clematis, which will weave itself into the fence. It's also a good security feature because it helps hold the fence in place, and then it also spreads everywhere and has flowers. So it not only hides your fence, it also makes it look good too. Okay. The rooms need doorways, so obviously you need a door into your garden. And don't forget to think about gates or openings in the walls. When you view the landscape as a combination of these solid elements, the whole process of planning and design is much more manageable. If you see the landscape that you particularly like, try to figure out what makes it special. If there's an attractive fence that makes a nice backdrop for your plants, is there a beautiful tree or shrub that you would love to have on your property? Has your neighbors come up with any clever ideas to screen the front yard from the street? There we go with the fencing and putting up clematis or climbing roses. You could use a climbing rose. That'd be an all right thing as well. And also adds a little bit of security because rose bushes have thorns. You may not want to copy any of these ideas exactly, but it'll at least give you some idea of what is possible at your home in your area. The unlimited combinations of these elements make it easy to create a landscape that is unique to your property, and that is what landscaping is all about, making the site work for you. So tonight we're going to be discussing creating the design. Creating the design, it starts with a wish list, and your wish list should be strictly for you. So if you prefer to have nothing but tomatoes, then design a garden based around that. Based on ideas that you've gathered from books, neighborhood properties, or neighboring properties, or your garden club, or anywhere you can gather gardening insight at. The list of things should include design ideas, like design ideas. Are you going to have raised beds? Do you have a back problem? So do you want 55-gallon plastic drums cut in half and build raised beds so you can grow out of those? Or do you just want to raise bed off the ground so that you have a structure to lean on as you're doing your work? Let's see, what else? Garden structures. Do you want a trellis? Do you want an archway? Trellis is good for stuff to grow on. You can use cattle panels. You can go with the plastic or wooden trellis that they make. I built my wife an arbor that goes the entryway into her kitchen garden, and I used a piece of cattle panel that we had left over, and it made a perfect arch, and I grow her cold hardy kiwi on that. So that grows from one planter box over the archway into the other garden box, and that's where cold hardy kiwi grow. You can add lights and all kinds of fancy stuff depending on what you want to do. And specific plants. So the specific plants are stuff that's going to work for your region. You can plant other things, avocado, lemon, lime, stuff like that. And but you have to take them in during the winter, depending on your area. So make sure you know that. This isn't the time to be realistic. Go ahead and put down anything you'd like to see in your yard, but have realistic goals and realistic ways on how to put said buckets full of dirt or containers full of dirt and get them inside your house or shed for the winter. You don't want to build a 500-pound planter and have kumquats growing in it, and you have to bring it in because then you're going to be, defeating the purpose there. The next step is figuring out what you really need for your landscape. If you have children, a play area might be important. Use of the yard, but you can put a cool little sunflower garden in a circle and kind of give them like a play place to play in, and put flowers around the outside of it. So that's an idea. But if you have a play place in your yard, you might want to avoid for your kids or grandkids. You don't want to put it right next to that, so in case they throw a ball in there, they're not trampling your garden. And if you do a lot of entertaining, a shady arbor might be just a place for your parties. You can put an arbor up, string grapes on, or any other vining thing, but grapes will cover it pretty quickly. They'll pretty much grow after the second year. For a large family, parking may be a major consideration. Besides play areas, entertaining and parking, think about privacy, security, noise reduction, pets, flowers, and food production. All part of your planning area, right? Once you've started thinking about the yard and what you want to do with it, it's time to start the garden. The notebook, the gardening notebook, or the journal, as I refer to it as. You'll find that keeping all the records in one place is valuable, not only as you make plans, but as you review the progress of your garden. A good garden notebook or journal doesn't need to be anything fancy. It could be a loose leaf notebook, or the one I use is just one of those little 99-cent paper pads. You just write on front of it with a marker. No fanciness needed. Don't worry if it gets cluttered and messy as time goes on. It'll still be used and useful down the road. So you know that whenever you do your rotation of plants and all that other good jazz, you'll have a place to go back and check. Hey, did I plant tomatoes here last year? Do an inventory of your site. You want to think about everything that you know about your yard. Once you start looking at it, you'll be surprised at how many details that you've forgotten. So you forgot that, hey, I planted these daffodil bulbs there, and then put it in my journal because I didn't have one then. And so you can't put there because you don't want to disturb your bulbs. List important facts and features that you want to keep in mind when you make your design. And as you read them, a page in your garden notebook to make notes on about it. So if you're going to design a garden bed on one page, leave the back page open so you can leave notes what you plan on doing or what you want to do. Then when you're finished, you have a much cleaner idea of what you want to put in your garden or gardens and where you want to put them at in your yard. Some statistics before you draw up your garden plan and goals. Collect some facts and data on your property. Doing this will help you organize priorities and have realistic plans. Some of the things you need to know is the hardiness zone and the local weather conditions. So if you follow any of the morning musters, we talk about your local hardiness zone, and I don't have a link to that, but I'll put one in the comment section below. 2, you want to know your soil conditions, clay, sandy, loamy, sandy. I already said that one. You want to know about the drainage, including wet and dry spots in your yard, because you'll plant different things there. You'll plant dry stuff in the dry areas that's drought tolerant, and stuff that'll also be good for water in the wet areas of your yard. You want to sit down and, or if you have a security camera or some kind of camera you can leave outside, and see what kind of exposure you have, such as areas that'll have full sun, partial and full shade. Or you can go out, a couple times a day and check that out and see where the sun is in the morning, the noon, and then in the evening to see where your exposure to the sun is. Your dimensions is not so much important if you're doing a container garden or a small garden, but you need to know your property dimensions, break down the space available for gardens, your recreational area, your pet runs, whether you have chickens or a dog run or something along those lines, and other areas of your property. Existing insect and disease problems. So you can go to motherearthnews.com, and that will give you an idea what to look for on insect problems, so that you know if you run into something, what you can treat them with. poison stinger has a problem with aphids. Yeah, can't talk. But we found out that due to the aphids, it's the fast release nitrogen that he was having in the soil from the fertilizer. So if you use a slow release nitrogen, like coffee grounds, it's supposed to help. Plus, neem oil spray. He said that the pepper spray was not effective on them. They just came right back. So I use neem oil, and that's something good to look at. NEEM, November Echo Echo Mike. Areas to avoid in your yard also should be noted, such as septic tank fields and underground utility cables or water lines, because you don't want to plant over those. If you plant over those, you're more than likely going to have to dig them up if you have a problem, and then whatever you planted there is going to be destroyed. So you want to walk out and find your water meter main, so you know where that's at. If you have a septic tank, you should already have an idea where your leach lines are, because you're not supposed to plant anything on top of those. Sewer line, I guess, would be as well, and utility lines. So you're supposed to dial 811, I think, before you dig. So if you're digging anywhere near the road, you need to do that first before you dig in any fence posts or anything. All right. Locations have essential features such as a water source, tool shed, or a compost pile. As far as your inventory, you want to know where your water source is going to be. So do you want to put your garden that requires watering 300 yards out and then have to figure out how to run water line out there, or put it close enough to the house, or rain gutter catchment system, whatever you have. So you want to take that in mind and keep that when you're designing doing your site inventory. Your tool shed, you want that on location so that you can put your tools away and they're out of sight, out of mind. Nobody's tripping or falling on them. And the compost pile, Mother Earth News has a fantastic article. I'm not paid by them. I use them. I've purchased their magazines for years. I've had a subscription, but anything that you can fathom or imagine is probably on there. So build you a composter. I prefer the one that's a 55-gallon drum with the center run from top to bottom of the 55-gallon container, so that it's not run through the center of the 55-gallon drum when it's sitting up. It's long ways, so it's easier to rotate and easier to work on. And plus, one thing you want to remember too, if you build a composter, which we can talk about later, is you want to put it high enough that you can put a wheelbarrow underneath of it, so when you dump that out, you don't have to shovel it off the ground. And then the next thing in your inventory, site inventory, is how much time do you have to spend on your garden and your yard? So right now everybody has time, so we should have enough time and to figure out all these things. You also want to know your microclimates. Knowing a microclimate on your property, places where it's warmer or cooler than the rest, can be valuable when it comes to sitting all your plants. Planting a vegetable garden in a frost pocket, like in a valley, is probably not a good idea. When the frost settles in late spring and early fall, it'll shorten the harvest season tremendously. So, for example, a sheltered south-facing site, on the other hand, can be quite pleasant to sit in on a cool winter day because the sun is coming in and warming you up there. Such sites also encourage spring flowers to bloom earlier in cooler parts of the yard. To verify your hunches about warmer, cooler pockets that would affect your plants, take temperature readings from different times of the day throughout the year in various locations of your garden. So if you have a rather large garden, say it starts out on top of a hill and then goes down a hill or a small grade, that's something you want to look at, because the cool air will come into the lower part of the garden up front and first. So, all right. So you can use a landscape needs checklist to help. You can start thinking about what features you'd like to do in your yard. And as you review your list, make sure you look at the yard from every perspective. Look out in the yard from inside the house, including upstairs window. Look at it from the street, from down the street, from the front door, from the sides, from the back boundary line. Look at the house from from your yard, and take a fresh look at your yard to help you identify features that you'd like to hide, or views you'd like to improve, such as view out your kitchen window. You can put a purple lilac bush, and then when you open that window, you're not only going to have a fresh, refreshing breeze blowing through there, but you also have the smell of fresh lilac. Done that for my wife, and she loves it, even though she hates flowers because she has allergies, but that she likes. So just take a look from all around your places. Figure out, do you have a big nasty gas main that you want to hide from the road? Plant something that's tall enough that'll grow tall enough to hide that. And then you want to date your list, and you might want to add and change things later. So that's why you know what day you've done that. So you can have a comparison to know in your journal where you planted and when you didn't, when you planted. You can also put in there in your journal things like I planted this plant on 4/14/2020, and it has a 1-year warranty on it. So if it dies or doesn't come back the next year, you'll know that on 4/14/2021 you can you need to have it replaced by then by the company you bought it from. Then you need to compare your wish list to the landscape list, and some of the things that will probably appear on both lists is the rose hedge. For example, a rose hedge on your list. You might want to match your need to keeping romping pets out of the vegetable garden. Other wants and needs may be totally incompatible with what you're looking at. If you try, if your yard is a popular place for neighborhood football or volleyball games, a delicate rock garden might be out of the question. Discuss the list with your family and decide which elements are acceptable to everyone. Also, don't forget to consider maintenance needs. A lovely perennial border can quickly deteriorate into a tangled mess if you don't have time to take care of it. But that's the good thing about perennials. You cut them down, they come back the next year. Next thing we'll talk about is sizing the site, because that's imperative to what we're talking about tonight. Now that you've looked at all the features and plants that you'd like to have on your property, it's time to take stock of what conditions you have to work with. Take a careful look at your site, soil, climate, and exposure to the south, which will make it easier to decide where to locate your vegetable garden, plants, and fruits, vegetables, trees, hedges, and other plantings that you'd like to add. We've already covered the inventory of your site, and that helps you get a better idea what you have to work with. Take note of wet, shady, rocky spots and try to take advantage of them. You can plant mint in a rock garden, and it'll spread everywhere. Not only that, but when the wind blows, it smells pretty nice. So let's see, a wet spot may not be desirable for a play area, but it'd be a good place for moisture-loving plants. Also, think the landscape as it changes throughout the seasons. Evergreens and berry shrubs, along with a bench and a sunning spot, can make for a pleasant place in your yard to sit during the winter, because the trees will help hold in the heat. And a little careful planning can give you a landscape 4-season appeal so that you can enjoy it all year long, along with your garden and cold frames, which we'll talk about as well. Don't forget details like specimen plants, interesting rocks, sculptures that help give your garden character. My kids like to, or when they were younger, like to paint rocks. So we have lots of rocks that are painted. Some of them they done with the name of the vegetables that they planted or the perennials. And what we're going to cover tonight as part of all this is how to map your garden. So making a map of your garden, you don't need professional skills to draw the map of a garden. You can use lined graph paper or garden. Any gardener can use a garden map. So you know where you planted your stuff from year to year, where perennials are planted, and where you can or cannot plant stuff because you don't want to tear up your perennials or your bulb garden. First step is to measure the boundary lines using a flexible measuring tape. It's about 25 feet or longer, depending on how big you want to grow this thing. It's easy to do with a helper, or you can hold one end down with a rock or put a stake in the ground, stick. If you work alone, stick with a pencil through the loop at the end of the tape, and you can push it in the ground to secure it. So you can use your pencil, but I would prefer a stick or a tent stake. That way you can survey your property. Just use the dimensions of your little survey or a photocopy of your survey to use as a base map if you're going to do a large garden or large grow site. You also want to take measurements of the size of your house, note its location, so that you don't plant a fall crop that won't get sun, basically. So you make sure it gets southern sun exposure even during the fall. Make a note of the size and location of existing garden beds and plantings as well. Next, sit down with your list and measurements in a graph paper. Choose a scale, such as a square of the paper equals 1 foot, which goes along with the square foot gardening plot. If you have a large property, you may need to tape a few sheets of paper together, or you can buy one of those big white poster boards and take a pencil and a large ruler and draw it out that way, so that way you can add stuff as you go, and that's what I do. And just use every inch square as a foot. Draw your boundaries and fill in the location where the buildings and plants are. Make it as accurate as possible so that you don't have a 10-foot garage whenever it's actually 30 by 30. So you'll have a good idea on where stuff's planted at and not out of range from your 1 square foot planting. If you can't do that, you can always just put an outline, but we're going to get to that in just a minute. Let's see, and include all your garden features, including paths, trees, buildings, fences, and walkways. Double check your counting to make sure that you draw things accurately. With this base map, you can have a template, and then whenever you want to add a new plant, you know where you can put it at and know where you can't. It's also a good idea for your kids or family if they want to go pick something and you have a large property. You can show them right where it's at on the map, and they can kind of figure out where it's at, like a food forest or something. Rather than drawing your plans directly on the base map, however, which I do, I prefer to do it that way. You can buy sheets of tracing paper and use it as overlays on sketch ideals on them, but I don't do that. Just for the simple fact is I put it there and that's where it stays unless it dies, and that's why I use a pencil so I can go back and remove it if I need to, or if we had to relocate it like I did with some pawpaw trees. We had to relocate them, but I had it all in pencil. The grid marker, the grid lines are done with marker or ink pen, so you can't erase them. And then I put everything in pencil. Otherwise, that way you can use your master plan again and again to know where your pathway, flower beds, and other features are. All right, so we're going to do this tonight, and this is a free site. So there is a paid site. It's Mother Earth News. And I'll post a link to that later if you want to go there. The free site is this one. You can actually select the size. There's a lot more options on the Mother Earth News one, but for free, I wanted to show you guys and gals this one. So this one, we have a 3 foot by 6 foot bed, and as you'll know, it's as you'll notice, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So that's each one of these is 1 foot, and it's based off the square foot gardening. And I don't know how, okay, we can go up to 5 feet by 12 feet for the garden bed, which I wouldn't suggest because it's going to be hard unless you have a pathway through the middle to get in here and do any actual gardening. But for purposes, we'll go back to for explanation purposes, we'll go back to 3 by 6. All right, so on this one, you put in your size, select the size. Then you drag and drop to the bed, which is limited because it is a free one. But we can play around with it. And then if anybody's interested, we'll do the Mother Earth News one, which you have to pay for after the free trial. But like I said, there's a lot more features. So we'll take alpine strawberries because we want them. Everybody should love strawberries unless you have a stomach disease that keeps you from eating seeds, and then you don't want these. All right, so our front row, and this will be facing south, is our low plants because these are a small plant and they'll help cover stuff. Basil, I'm not for sure if that's a companion plant. That's another thing about this. This one here, it doesn't tell you if they're companion plants. So, for example, strawberry may not grow well with basil. So you wouldn't want to plant them together because they'd stun each other's growth and not have a good crop out of them. Yeah, so we'll put lettuce next, which is arugula. And if you like a lot of arugula, plant a lot of it. If you're going to do basil, pesto that you're going to make at home. And then in the back, we'll put our green beans. And it's that simple to see, hey. And now with this one here, you can go and actually purchase the stuff from this company. But like I said, it's a free one. It also gives you a quick rundown of what you planted, how many places you need to plant. It's 12 inches apart. And as you see here, there's one plant here. And the arugula, there is 4, 8, 16. So 16 plants per square foot. Series on organic farming. A lot of organic farmers will, for example, let's take this one out of here. Broccoli. All right, so as a farmer who is trying to generate income, if you're going to do that with yours or not, off topic real quick here, but you can grow 16 arugula plants, all right, in this 1 square foot, all right, and make multiple cuttings. However, the same square foot will only grow 1 broccoli plant with 1 possible, one cutting, right? Because once you cut this, it's done. So if you're growing this for profit, then you want to stick with a plant that's going to give you a lot more in the square footage. And this is a loss leader. So unless you just want to grow broccoli for yourself, you're looking at a profit loss if you grow broccoli versus if you grow greens or microgreen. And that's with everything. So if you can put 4 plants, some green beans, or peas, you can put every 2 inches at full growth. So, and then you can succession plant, which is another thing we'll talk about later. But after you take these up, well, this will produce till it gets hot and they bolt. But if you had peas, you could take those after you harvest the peas in the early summer. You can plant squash there or another plant because pea and beans are nitrogen fixing plants. All right. So anyways, let me check back over here on the chat. Looks like we have 2 people watching. Do we have any questions so far? Anybody have any questions? We're using the free planter guide over here. There is another one that's at motherearthnews.com, and I will post that up. And it is a garden planner that you pay for, but it's a lot more feature rich. So the first one is this one. This is the one we're using right now, and it basically allows you to do minimal things. Gives you a planning guide for each thing. Tells you what and how to plant them. This place also allows you to buy them directly from them. All right. So if you want to get a little bit larger, you can design an entire site, 10 foot by 10 foot bed. And if I would have saved the other one, we could have, let's see if we already got one over here. Nope, don't have one. So if I'd have saved the one we just had up, we could have imported it over here and made a bed. And then we can continue to make succession beds. It'll allow you to download it and print it. And you can design your whole garden site this way. So let's go back to that one. And then we have nothing because we didn't save it, but get the idea. What does nitrogen fixing mean? Okay. Good evening, ma'am. Well, nitrogen fixing means it draws up nitrogen from the soil and also turns into a green manure. And instead of adding coffee grounds or a nitrogen based fertilizer, it does that for you naturally. What is your recommended site for finding companion plants? I don't know if Mother Earth News has it. I'm sure they do. Let me see here. We can put that up if I can get back to the regular site. Let's see if it has it in the plant section. All right. So shade tolerant. I'll put this in there anyways, just for reference. But this tells you which plants are what and where they can be planted at. But I will find you a companion planting chart that you can look at in just a moment. But the one I just posted up, that's a plant growing guide, and it's got pictures and all kinds of good stuff on there for you. And as far as companion plants, I'll try to find you a chart so that we can put that up there too. Let's see. I was not prepared for that one. So I have to do a search real quick. And of course, there is one on Mother Earth News, so we'll check that one out because that's who we're promoting tonight, even though we're not affiliated with them. So, all right, here is the link. I'll post that up for your viewing pleasure, and you can go on there and copy all, and then print it out. So here's the garden planner. That's the garden planner for the U.S. and Canada. And here is the link to the companion planting guide. And we can go over there and cover that real quick. If I can get, click on that, stop that. And there's my ugly mug. And we'll share that screen. Audio included if there is any. There's not. All right. So this is the in-depth companion planting guide. Companion planting, yeah, you can read all that. Basil, you can plant near most garden crops. Keep away from rue. If you don't know what rue is, you're probably not eating it anyways. Improves flavor growth of garden crops, especially tomatoes, and repels mosquitoes. Bush beans are a bush. They don't need a pole usually to grow on. You can plant them near beans, cabbage, carrots, catnip, cauliflower, or cauliflower, however you call it, corn, cucumbers, marigolds, potatoes, savory, and strawberries. And then it also tells you to keep away from these. And then it gives you what it kills or repels, and so on and so forth. And then you just click on continue reading, and it'll allow you to open it up. So there's that. All right. I would like to know more about succession planting. Since I live in a very hot place in summer, I would like to know about what to plant for over 100-degree weather. That's probably another video. I was just trying to do a garden planner to get everybody going. But I can definitely look into that. Arizona, right? All right, let's see what we got. So mainly it is in raised beds, but I know you have back to Eden Garden, so I already knew that. Simple way to keep your garden productive longer is make a list of vegetables you like, and then find out where they grow and make the plan. Temperature requirements of each crop. Warm season crops grow best. It says from average to 75 to 85. It should be protected below temperatures that reach 50. Cool season crops, which you're not worried about. Does it get down really cold at night throughout your summer months, or? No. We don't want to join the newsletter. Stop. Yes. Okay. No, it does not get below. Does it? So it never really gets below 50. So all right. All right. This thing's being ridiculous. Give me just a second here. All right. So warm season crops for succession planting are bush beans, 45 to 60 days from planting to seed. You can succession plant your beans. So if they produce in 45 days to 60 days, you'd want to go ahead and have some other ones planted. So I would say probably every 30 days I would plant new ones so that you would go ahead and have that. I don't know if you do you guys do sweet corn at all? It's a 60 to 75 day period. So you'd want to go ahead at 30 days and plant some more corn. Summer squash, if you're interested in that. Tomatoes, 50 to 60 days from setting out the plants. So you'd want to set those out every 50 days, which most tomato plants will go ahead and keep producing in warm weather like that. So I guess it's just ultimately up to what you want to plant. It stays hot in the night. In the summer, it's 80 or higher. So I know yours is kind of in the shade, right? Part of the day. So pretty much anything that will continually grow, just like the radishes we talked about, you can take and plant them. So if it takes 14 days for them to sprout, on the 14th or 15th day, you can go ahead and put another set in. The same thing goes for the maturity of other things. That way you'll have a continuous crop. So let's see if I can find you a chart or something here. Nope. No, business planning. Come on now. All right. So Johnny Seeds is where I do a lot of my business with too. The chart provides. Okay, so there's a chart on here. You can go, and I'll post a link up for that as well. You can go here, and I'll go over there. We'll stop sharing this page. All these links will be in the video and in the chat, so you should be able to click on them, copy and paste them or whatever. For anybody else that's watching, so we got that figured out. Now we'll go to the vegetable succession planning. So we'll have a source or a reference. 7-day intervals. Up here, if you just click on it, you can choose what intervals you want to do. Take note of the timing intervals so that you know when the best practice to grow stuff is. All right, so if you're doing baby leaf lettuce, you can sow every 4 weeks before the frost comes, unless you have a protected cover, which is the short and snappy video I did that I made one quickly. I just showed you guys and gals what it was. Baby leaf greens. You can sow up to 4 weeks before the first frost, but we're not talking about frost. So every 4 weeks, you can plant baby leaf lettuce, baby leaf greens, which most of that will keep growing. Radishes, it says 4 weeks. Cover with lightweight to prevent flea bed. Okay, so cover with lightweight row covers, flea to protect from flea beetles. And you may not have to do that if you incorporate the companion planting. So some of those other plants that we talk about in companion planting actually draw the bugs away from the good stuff, and they'll eat the flowers, or the flowers will bring in parasitic things that kill them. On a 10-day interval, full head lettuce. So you would for 8 weeks before frost, you would start that. And then to keep getting full head lettuces, you'd plant it in 10-day intervals. So after you sowed your seeds for 8 weeks, you would do 6 weeks or a 10-day interval. Every 10-day interval, you could plant another one. Asian greens, fresh eating calibri or however the hell you pronounce it. It's just cover with lightweight cover to prevent flea damage. You guys have a problem with the aphids, but this is all good information. Sweet corn, plant multiple varieties with different days, but you can plant it every 10 days, so you have a successful planting. 14 days. Every 14 days, you plant beets, escarole, I don't know what that is, endive, arugula, which is a lettuce. You can also cover that with row cover to protect it from beetles. Turnips, no turnips. Carrots, you plant those in 21-day intervals. So I planted mine on the 14th. So 21 days from the 14th, I'll plant them again. Cucumbers, you'll plant on 21-day intervals, which you usually never have to worry about having too many cucumbers because they always come on really good here. Full-side mustard greens, melons, and then every 30 days, you could plant summer squash and Swiss chard. And that's not an exhaustive list, but a good one to go by. All right, let's see what we got. Since this is Gardening Planning 101, I know I had a hard time understanding all the things that I needed to buy to get started. We can connect on later on that. Well, we can talk about it here. I mean, I can bring Poison Stinger on if you want. I was just doing a quick run through of some of the stuff that you can use. I'd be more than happy to send him a link if you're interested, and we can talk about it so everybody else can know what's going on. If he's available, you just let me know, and I'll bring him on. I don't want to stay on here too long, but we can't do a 3-hour one like we did this morning. But it's cold outside right now, and I'm sitting here enjoying my warm cup of coffee. So if he's interested, let me know, and I'll send him a link. If you're not snuggled up on the couch watching movies together. Don't want to interrupt movie time. But I enjoyed my dinner that my lovely wife made for me, and we watched a little TV. So I had a free moment, and it's cold, like I said. So I'm here. Link is sent just in case. Anybody else watching have any comments that they would like to have addressed? All right. Well, come on down, Mr. Stinger, if you're available. And we'll chat it about. Oh. Doot. What up, Poison Stinger?
What's up, bro? How you doing?
All right, what kind of questions do we have?
The wife has them, so I'm going to let her take the iPad.
Oh.
And, because I'm just a dumb. So. I don't even know what questions to ask.
Well, I was just thinking that since this is your Garden Planning 101, that I was thinking about my issues because I'm still a beginner and I didn't really know what to buy, and I didn't know even how to lay it out or if I needed to do anything to the soil or not, because before we found out about Back to Eden gardening, I tried to just throw seeds in the ground, and that didn't work because our ground is really sandy and full of clay.
Wait, you mean that Mr. Dude was wrong?
Dude was wrong. So I plan on getting to that, but I just wanted to do like a quick video on that. But what are your questions in general, and then we'll try to cover that real quick.
All right. So
Just what kind of amendments, or how to check your soil type, or what? And I got the eye.
Like in general, like what is like the basic thing that you should do to, like, if you have a small area that you want to garden in, what's the basic thing that you should do to your soil just so that you can plant something in it and it'll grow with a certain expectation?
The easiest way, depending on where you're at, is to do what you're doing, build a raised bed, and buy soil to put in the raised bed. You want to put down a cardboard, and then newspaper, and then put down your bag soil over top of that, and make a layer mulch, which snuffs out the grass and any other weeds that may come up. And then you have the cardboard will break down, and the worms will feed off of the brown card. I'm sorry, you only use brown cardboard with no tape or plastic on it. Build up a pretty good layer. I have a diagram somewhere I can get and put a picture up of, but you want to put your cardboard down, then put newspaper over top of that, and then put your soil on top of that. But the benefit of that is the earthworms will work their way through that and eat the cardboard, and then they will leave porous soil underneath of it with the worm casings, and the worm casings will break down into nutrients in the soil and break the soil up, and then all those nutrients will essentially start flowing into the soil, and wherever you build that bed, it'll get deeper and grow a lot more nutrient dense food because of all the mixing that the earthworms are doing for you. Now, I don't know if there's earthworms there. I'm sure there's worms everywhere, or red worms, or whatever kind of worms you have. If you flip a log over, there's probably a scorpion there.
We have worms.
There's probably a scorpion there, but
not in the city so much.
okay. So that right there is the easiest way. But if you have to go out and do a garden and don't have the opportunity to do that, the best way to do it is till it up, remove any big clumps of grass and put them to the side, and have a composter, and then continuously put compost onto that bed, or straw, which will break down as well and hold moisture in, because that's what you want. You want like when you grab the earth and it breaks up in your hand and still kind of moist, that's what you want. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question?
Yep.
Because if you can drive a nail in it and then somebody step on the nail and it punctures their foot, your soil's too hard and you're not going to grow anything in it.
Yeah, our soil's pretty crappy. So, when I first attempted to do anything here in Arizona, it was horrible and failed miserably.
And that's the same way in most places where it's been farmed. Like here, our soil is mainly clay because of all the topsoil is washed away, because the farmers in the spring, which I've been doing as well, will till it up, and then they don't have anything, and the spring rains come and it washes all the topsoil away and the nutrients away into the creeks and down the river, and away it goes. So what I've done to implement to stop that is I built I'm going to screw this up and it sounds retarded, but it's called a hergiculture or hugiculture bed. And all I've done there is I've took trees that have fallen or we had to cut down because they're rotten and piled them up down in the bottom of the field, where the water would normally run because of the elevation. And I built a berm there, and then I planted fast growing stuff on it, like clover and stuff, and that builds a root system. But as those logs break down underneath the wood, with the mulch and stuff on top of it, it creates a bed to plant trees on that's highly nutritious for your plants, which goes along with the permaculture model. It's kind of like back to Eden Garden, but on a larger scale. And it's called hugiculture, I think, if that's pronounced right. Are you cooking?
Yes.
We're having a live cooking show and gardening 101. All right.
Does it sound delicious?
I can't hear. I'm deaf. if it's sizzling bacon, it's delicious.
It's not bacon. It's beef and peppers and onions.
Oh, see peppers. So Tactical Tony got his seeds today. He wanted Serrano, so I sent them to him. Did I send you the mix pack of green beans as well as the bush? I don't remember.
Yes.
Okay, so the mixed beans, so that you could give Poison Stinger some hell. There is a white bean and a purple bean and a green bean. So, yeah. All right. We're about at an hour. Anybody else have any questions? Go ahead and throw them up now. Or if you have any more questions, we'll answer those if we can. But I'm going to try to do a full length series on it. But today was more of the garden planning. We're going to go into planning for practicality, landscaping needs checklist, understanding your designs, plants and designs, and garden size, which we kind of touched on. Some people may or may not need all this. That's why I'm doing it this way. Installation of the garden, edible landscaping, selecting your plants, ornamentals with edible plants, and budget stretching ideas, raised garden beds, what site's right for you, and plan perfect paths so you don't have a problem with, putting a path in one place and then you all of a sudden you want to change it. Keeping your compost close, planning for the overall picture, building your child a garden so they can feel like they're helping out but not mess up your actual garden.
All good things.
Practical planning pointers, and in that goes into a lot of depth, like fancy upfront planners, dealing with drainage problems, made for the shade plants, grass you can grow in the paths that you can walk on that help stop from soil erosion, having to use mulch and rocks. Put your plan on paper, keeping records, which I've talked about with the journal. Gardening throughout the year, gardening in the winter, gardening in the early spring. And this is just one the gardening 101, the intro to gardening is all this stuff. So gardening in the summer, gardening in the fall, gardener's to-do list from month to month. I have 10 books on that, and every year I use a different one to see how they work out. What's up, Tactone? Yep, you're welcome. I'm glad to help out. I showed Poison Stinger. Next year, or the end of this year, we'll have Irish USMC Vet seed packs probably coming out. So be on the lookout for that. We're going to have our own seeds for next season's growing season. So we'll probably do a giveaway on that. So push more people in here, get more people in here, and get people gardening. And we'll have stuff like that too. So any more questions?
Not at the moment.
I know it's kind of hard to cook and think about gardening at the same time, right?
Actually, I think about gardening all the time because I'm like, hey, I'm trying to think about what I want to grow that I eat. And I'm like, I need to grow some of this or I need to grow some of that because I'm eating it.
Yeah, and it's a daunting task, especially if you're just starting out. Not to, because for two people it's not that many. But always grow what you're going to eat, and that way you can can it. Of course, you guys know how to can, I think. If not, Poison Stinger can make that shit into some good pickled beets or something. I mean, I don't know.
Dude, you want to see my canner, bro?
Did you get your nipples yet? No, you haven't got your nipples yet. I want to see the pickle nipples.
Yeah, the pickle nipples will be here May 7th. But hold your horses. He's getting down the big behemoth canner.
Uh-oh. I hear the little flapper top, the tap it at the top. All right, yeah.
It's an all-American, massive beast.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
I forget how much capacity it is, but it's a lot.
It holds a lot. We canned multiple dozens of
I think it's 7 on the bottom and 6 on the top.
Ground turkey. We had been gifted a bunch of ground turkey, like 40 pounds of it, and we canned every bit of it.
Awesome. Now you need to get Poison Stinger to build you a custom shelf to put your cans on, your canning jars. All right. If you guys want to hang around, I'll talk to you guys for a few more minutes. But as far as this chat is over, so thumbs up, thumbs down, bitches, moans, complaints, leave them in the comment section below. I'm Irish USMC Vet, and we're talking about intro to gardening. Check out the links in the chat if you're interested in anything we covered tonight. If you want to get in touch with us or sponsor us or whatever, it's in the drop down link below the video. And thanks for watching. Have a great evening or day, whatever time it is in your area. See y'all later.